Welcome back to the C Block, or final section of this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast news. I'm Alain Pinto. Next up, did the cannabis stocks fall this week or did they sustain their rally? Here's Doug Miller's High on Wall Street report for the week.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Tilray brand surged more than 20% Thursday after posting a major turnaround in its first quarter earnings. The company flipped last year's loss of $34.7 million into a profit of $1.5 million while hitting a record $210 million in revenue. That momentum has pushed Tilray's stock up over 400% since June. But not everyone on Wall Street celebrating. Options traders are bracing for turbulence, with near-term expectations showing a 15% swing and downside protection. Analysts point to challenges as Tilray's gross margin slipped and its beverage segment, once hyped as growth engine, saw profits fall by $1.6 million. We did see a big market dip on Friday as Trump mentioned more tariffs on China. So we'll be watching to see how the market wants to react and, of course, what the cannabis sector wants to do. Tilray's trading around $1.72 and it could pull back some. So watch for dips, trade smart, and lock in those profits. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, I'm Doug Miller.
There is still some reaction from cannabis consumers who saw the video President Trump posted on Truth Social a few weeks ago that was produced by the Commonwealth Project. In case you haven't seen it yet, it is the closest thing to a public service announcement that has been allowed by traditional media and social media platforms. It introduces and explains the endocannabinoid system that this plant medicine directly interacts with. You can see it on our YouTube channel with our new breaking news playlist. It also discusses the benefits of CBD for seniors. In the results of a recent poll by Marijuana Moment and Nug MD magazine, cannabis consumers were not impressed by the PSA video posted by the president a few weeks ago. In fact, the majority of consumers continue to disapprove of the president's policy or impact on federal reform. 47% of consumers polled said they have no opinion or a neutral view of the president's cannabis policy. Another 42% said they either disapprove or strongly disapprove of his non-action so far. In Illinois, their governor, J.B. Pritzker, has been focused on challenging the president's plan to use National Guard troops in Chicago. So, how do you think the Chicago clone guy feels about all that? Here's Mark Allen's report from his home state as he opens up his grow facility that he's been working on for a few years now. Here's Mark.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago clone guy, reporting from the Clone Castle just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for tuning in for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Always something going on here in Chicagoland area, Illinois. I just wanted to talk about what's behind me really quick. I figured you might be asking, what's that big black tank? Well, that's my water. Out here in the country, I built this whole facility. You can't just tap into water like in Chicago. You have to dig a well. And unfortunately, the water sucks out here. So I had to get a big tank to store it and then treat it myself, which I'm actually treating it chemically free. No chlorine, no hydrogen peroxide. I'm just using an oxidation process to bubble the water, which essentially bubbles the heavy metals out of it. Then that tube right there behind me, there's a vent on the outside that pulls that smell, that stinky rotten egg smell out. But then I also have carbon filters, 50 micron filters, and I have an ultraviolet filter at the end to get all the bacteria out. But anyways, just want to give you a little interesting information on this process, which was very interesting, very difficult to figure out. But anyways, interesting news going on here. The Illinois Department of Agriculture is hosting a public meeting on cannabis plant, an update on the cannabis plant monitoring system that they use. They want to change tags and the way they update and the way they pretty much just track the plants from all the way from the beginning to the end. So that's pretty cool that they're actually letting people, comment. Normally they just do stuff, so I like that. Another thing the IDOA did that was actually good, that is good, affects me directly, is that they posted a new website online portal for their 2025 hemp cultivator final report. Simply put, I need to go on this online tool fill in how much I grew, what I did, how I grew it, what I did or what I didn't do. But there's a new box on this list in this new online tool that actually is for propagation, which is exactly me. So me, I didn't grow anything yet. I'm just barely even open. So I already went in there. I grew zero hemp. I grew zero hemp. I grew zero flower hemp, but I'm going to be a propagator soon. So that website is operating efficiently and easily. So well done to the IDOA for numerous things recently. I'm surprised I say that, but I give credit where credit's due. But anyways, I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago Clone Guy, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Thanks for tuning in.
The state of Minnesota is slowly rolling out more licenses. The lucky few who have already opened their doors are enjoying the benefits of growing and selling the plant medicine in their now legal adult use state. Alysha Bellamy is an active advocate and entrepreneur in Minnesota. Here's her report for the week.
I'm Alysha Bellamy for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is your Minnesota edition, and I am a part of the Minnesota Cannabis College and the founder of Herbs and Herbs. October 1st, we have opening on the Solo website the low potency hemp edibles license. That license is for retailers, edible manufacturers, and for wholesalers. This is a non-social equity license that you can attain through the state of Minnesota. In 2024, Minnesota sold $145 million worth of low-potency hemp edibles, and in 2025, we're looking to eclipse $200 million in sales. One thing, though, with the new labeling and packaging that the OCM has put out, some people are thinking of moving out of the Minnesota market for a more reasonably priced labeling and packaging compliance program. November 3rd, we have our medical cannabis consulting training program proposal starting. That again is November 3rd, and that window closes December 1st. You need this license to be able to sell medical marijuana in your dispensary. I'm Alysha Bellamy for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, the Minnesota Cannabis College, and Herbs and Herbs.
Let's talk about High Times. Earlier this year, Josh Kesselman, the CEO of Raw Rolling Papers, bought High Times out of receivership and is relaunching the iconic magazine online and in print. They even released a special 50th anniversary cover in September. Steve Bloom, the celeb stoner himself and former editor at High Times, explained in his newsletter that it's the 51st year of the magazine, not the 50th. Josh Kesselman, who is one of the great characters and personalities in the industry and the new owner, explained that they knew about it and published it a little late because we got high. Now that has been pretty consistent over the past 51 years at High Times. So that'll do it for this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alain Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there, so consume it responsibly, and we'll see you next week.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Pro Cannabis Media is now WPCM TV, your go-to website for things cannabis. WPCM TV is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news you need.
Amy Carter. This week, she reports from inside the State House in Lansing.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Michigan Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
And talk shows about all things cannabis.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing to get the word out. Like, this show is so important.
It all started back in 2018 when Emmy award-winning talk show host Jimmy Young kicked it off with the In the Weeds podcast.
That it's not just any generic paper towel. You do have a brand that you use, right?
Yeah, we live or die by the bounty. I mean...
The quicker picker-upper! I love that!
His mission? Building an army of multimedia journalists and podcast hosts who are documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. Fast forward to today, and we've got the nation's only weekly cannabis coast-to-coast news program with Alain Pinto.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM-TV's weekly production of the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. I'm Alain Pinto.
Delivering the nation's only TV news-style program. Since June 2021, WPCM-TV has racked up over 1.3 million views, with 17 million impressions, and picked up over 16,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. For more information, contact the team at WPCMTV.com.